Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. On the day of this video's release, we are on the eve of the feast day of St. Andrew, patron saint of my birth country, Romania, at least according to the Romanian Orthodox calendar. This day, in turn, is on the eve of Romania's premier national holiday, Grand Union Day. Which I actually made a video about some years ago. So yeah, as you can tell, these days are a big deal to some people. And in order to mark the occasion, I've been reviewing Romanian language books for the past weeks. And that particular marking of this occasion is something I will conclude in this week's video with a look at The Present from the Past, subtitled The History You Don't Learn About in School, second subtitle, Romanians, From Antiquity to the Dawn of the Modern Age. That's quite a mouthful, if you consider it. Written by Ioan Aurel Pop. He is the current president of the Romanian Academy, a history professor and former rector of the Babeș-Bolyai University, the most prestigious such institution within Romania, and it was published 2 years ago by the educational imprint of Corinth, a publishing house I may or may not have mentioned at some point throughout the history of this channel, primarily known for its historical output. And I don't mean the output of its history. Okay, I do to some extent mean that, but I primarily mean the output it has when it comes to history books or history related historiography books. So when you look at it from a somewhat general quality establishment perspective, it sounds like this book has some pretty good things going for it. Does that actually hold up once you start reading it? Well, my impressions in summary are: do you remember that XKCD comic about how experts within a given field often overestimate how much the average person knows about their own particular field of expertise? That's kind of low-key the impression I've had while going through this book, because I think that the author himself is quite knowledgeable within his field, and he expects to some extent to just degree to just present some supplemental material to the knowledge that people would have that he would have wanted to present some supplemental material to knowledge people would have already had, which, yeah, not necessarily sure that, which I don't necessarily think was really effective. There is still plenty of new information that the author presents, and I can safely say that I've had at least my understanding of the topics he talks about expanded. However, I think he relies a little bit too much on trying to establish a personal connection between readers and the historical figures in order for his book to have the impact that he expects it to have. And I think trying to bring these characters, these historical figures, within their respective contexts, and therefore trying to establish what their background is like, and how their work ended up shaping shaping a variety of other aspects within these historical figures' future, would have made this book distinctly better and distinctly more interesting to read through. Still, at the very least, I can safely say that I've had my my knowledge of the topics it covers expanded upon, even if the contextualization work that this book lays down isn't particularly well developed. So if your Romanian language reading level is at is at B2 or higher, and and you have a general interest in the history of the Romanian people, then I think it is fair to say that this book is a pretty good primer to get you into the to get you into the into this topic. And now that I've gone through the basics, it's time I delved into some specifics. This book is divided between 6 subsections. The first of which is basically a broad overview of historiography and historical research, i.e., how that takes place, and what kind of artifacts do historians typically look for, and how these artifacts are analyzed for the sake of revealing any kind of information that they could hold. Now, some of you might think that particular presentation is a little bit too dry, a little bit too academical for this particular kind of book. But me personally, I very much found myself looking forward to what was coming next once I read through that, because that particular introduction showed me that this author has put in the work of how to build context, of how to establish the narrative, or to explore the sands of time like a historian. And it really looked as though he was preparing to bring the readers along through these sands of time and pick up individual kernels to see what they could tell about that particular patch of time that they were made within. That impression, unfortunately, falls through as one progresses through the book, and unfortunately, the first major issue when it comes to its presentation occurs at the very next segment, which is about the antiquity, a time from which there are obviously fewer such sand kernels left, and also given the author specializes more in medieval history, this is obviously not his field of expertise. So in that sense, the presentation is, I have to say, unfortunately, somewhat hollow, not as inspiring as it could have been. So yeah. This is not the best follow-up that that particular introduction could have had. Thankfully, the book does pick up in later parts, particularly when it reaches the late Middle Ages and early modern ages, when where it's clear that the author the things that are clearly within the author's wheelhouse, so to speak, and how it is that he and especially in how it is that he talks about these particular these particular moments, and how the surrounding context really impacts them, showcasing how the pre-unification Romanian principalities became linchpins in the broader conflict between the Ottoman Empire and a variety of other Eastern European powers. So, to that end, I can safely say that that there is plenty of good content that can be found throughout this book. Of particular note, to me at least, is the additional information I received about a variety of figures who, up until having read this book, I've more or less only known as the names of schools, squares, and streets. Now I know, now I have a little bit better information on their, on their background, on what makes them notable figures within history, and on, and on basically their methods and their goals, which I have to say I do appreciate. That being said, even the best parts of this book do not escape its principal faults. What are these faults? Well, the first one is pretty much the bane of all historians, aka great man theory, which is where the author somewhat overemphasizes the importance of the contributions that certain figures brought to the historiography or the historical development of this of this particular territory. But the second and perhaps more interesting issue to look into is something I've seen. Is something that is very particular to Romanian historiography, at least as far as I've been able to see it, namely patriotic history syndrome. The where the people who present various figures and various events talk about these figures and those events as though they were always aimed towards the creation of the modern Romanian nation state. Now, don't get me wrong. I have no doubt that some, or at least a few, of the figures that this book describes did actually have some kind of idea towards towards creating a united political assembly that would constitute that would be at least somewhat similar to the to the modern Romanian state, or at least as similar to it as the French kingdoms would have been to current France. But I don't think as many figures as this book describes would have really had that intention, and the evidence that it presents isn't really there to showcase it. That being said, I do also want to add another point of praise, which is the fact that which is how this book utilizes images, because there are plenty of them that are very effectively integrated and that do help, I'll say, prove the point of that first segment describing historiographical methods, and they are quite effectively integrated within the text itself. Unfortunately, I do have to take about half of my praise back, because only about half of these images are actually as effectively presented as would actually benefit them and do actually enhance the text as they're supposed to. The other half is just kind of there. You can infer it, but it's still not as effectively integrated within the context that the written parts of the book, rather than the illustrated ones, are trying to present. So yeah. Once again, contextualization is kind of an issue with this with the way this author has put the book together. Overall, while there are some strengths and some benefits to how this author has constructed the book and the thesis running throughout it, his ambition when it comes to presenting information is quite notably overtaken by his ability to actually construct a presentation. So my final narrative for The Present from the Past is a 3 out of 5. And that was my review. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed it, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If there is anything you'd like to add, either to the book itself or to my review of it, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe, and ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. My books, the first of my own Heir to the Empire series, The Next Generation: The Path Not Taken, are available at various book retailers at their respective master links in the description down below, right past my social media links, which I would suggest you check out should you choose to. And given my third book, The Unfolding Order, is on the way, now might be as good a time as any to check out those social media links, because who knows? I might just have something of of note there for you. And yeah, I also have a second channel where you can hear me talking about whatever crosses my mind, though it'll primarily be about narrative analyses of works outside of the print medium. So if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead and check it out. If, however, you want to hear more about my thoughts on the print medium and selected works therein, well then I suggest you stay on this channel and go for my extensive backlog covering book reviews, writing advice, and miscellaneous connected topics. If that doesn't interest you either, then I suggest you go ahead and do whatever you want the rest of your day, because it is your day after all. And yeah, that was it for me. So until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair.